there have been reports of individuals claiming to have witnessed people and children in particular being snatched in public and including malls and outside school gates. And these have triggered debates on social media using the hashtag human trafficking SA and prompting a discussion on a list of detailing possible places in Johannesburg that could be used by human trafficking syndicates to lure victims. And police have, however, disputed the existence of such. The South African Police Service, that's the SAPS, have cautioned against information sharing on social media, which could actually cause panic in communities. SAPS National spokesperson Brigadier Vish Naidoo is with us now to tell us about the police perspective and what is or is not true with regard to human trafficking in South Africa. And following that, we'll also try and clarify at least some of the confusing issues that rose yesterday regarding the Senzo Meyiwa murder case. Brigadier Naidoo, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
A very good morning to you, Sakina, and thank you for this opportunity.
Let's just start with the human trafficking issue, and perhaps a good place to start would be to look at a definition of what human trafficking actually is, Brigadier.
Well, human trafficking is basically, just in a nutshell, in a layman's terms, is to basically lure a person into falsely believing that he or she could be, be guaranteed a lucrative job. And of course, they are lured into a place or into another country or to an environment where they are exploited for other means, whether it's financial means, sexual means, and so forth. So that's basically in a nutshell, and that's what human trafficking is. And that person who has been lured to another place doesn't have an opportunity or doesn't have or is unable to return to his or her a home or original place where the person had come from. So basically, it's a very fine line between kidnapping and human trafficking. The only difference between the two is that in kidnapping, there's always a demand for ransom.
So the perception, the public perception in South Africa seems to be, and this borne out through some of the hashtags that you must have seen on social media platforms, that there is a rise in human trafficking in the country. But what are your statistics telling you? Are we actually seeing more incidents of human trafficking in the country?
What we've been seeing, and fortunately not in the very recent past, is a lot of messages, text messages, video messages, and voice messages indicating that people are being trafficked or people are being kidnapped for the purpose of trafficking. And we, since the beginning of September, actually to be more precise, on the 8th of September, we put out a media statement where a young girl claimed that there were 2 buildings in Pretoria that were being used for human trafficking, only to find that the one building in Pretoria CBD was actually a building being used by police officers as a residence, and the second one in Brooklyn that was being used by a financial company, a legitimate financial company. Now, we found who that woman was because she did an interview with a community radio station. So there's charges being preferred against her in terms of defeating the ends of justice. Then following that, we suddenly had a list of buildings in Joburg CBD, which you just in your opening remarks also alluded to. We looked through every one of those buildings, and none of them had proven to be legitimately being used for human trafficking. They were for one or other, and some even abandoned. And there was no signs of any form of criminality that was taking place there, particularly human trafficking. Then we've had videos, most of which, as I have discussed with your producer yesterday, you would find like a child walking on a street, and then in a lonely street or in a suburb, and then a vehicle approaching, picking this child up. And it all looks too good to be true. You can see there's that degree of enactment in the creation of the video. And as lately as last night, there's a video started circulating as well, where 3 or 4 young gentlemen are claiming that children were being trafficked at a house. We're not sure where the house is. We're still trying to analyze the video. And there too, you can see there's a great degree of enactment in that video. And we have been continuously urging people to stop sending out these fake messages, fake videos, and fake voice notes, because they are alarming. They can cause uncertainty and paranoia, as you also alluded to in your opening remarks.
So how big is the actual problem of human trafficking in South Africa as per reported cases? And are there any specific trends that the police have picked up on?
Let me first and foremost tell you, South Africa, by the US, we have been for the work that we have been doing, in an integrated way together with our Interpol member countries, and in an integrated way together with all government departments in South Africa, we have been moved up 2 levels, meaning that we are not showing any signs of vulnerability when it comes to human trafficking. And as we stand here, the National Coordinator of the Directorate for Priority Crimes Investigation is not investigating a single case of human trafficking. However, when these videos and these messages are coming up, we open inquiries. So that we can have those inquiries investigated, and if we are able to identify people responsible for actually committing human trafficking, then we would arrest them and open a case, a criminal case, and investigate that as a criminal case. So far, there are no criminal case that we're investigating, but we do have inquiries, as I said, from these messages, the videos, voice and text messages that are doing their rounds through social media.
So, and this is where it gets confusing, Brigadier Naidoo, because listening to you now, it sounds almost as if we don't have a problem with human trafficking in South Africa. Just last year, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime actually trained police officers in South Africa. And one of the things that was noted was that the Republic of South Africa is a primary destination for trafficked persons in the Southern African region and in Africa at large. So this is also what has people, wondering what is really going on. Are people imagining some of these things? Because this is why I specifically asked you about what the actual statistics are, what the actual problem is in South Africa. How big is it? Because there either is a problem or there isn't a problem, and it would seem as though the message is a contradictory one at the moment.
Well, as I said to you, we can only go by the cases that we are investigating, and we can only investigate those cases once a perpetrator is in custody. So let's just say, for example, and I must say, fortunately, from the beginning, towards the end of March, beginning of April, when lockdown started, there was very little movement of people, so we didn't have very many cases being reported to us of allegations of people being trafficked, especially in your escort agencies and buildings being used as brothels and so forth. So, but prior to that, when we receive a complaint that foreigners are being housed in a particular environment, or people are being, or even locals are being kept against the will in a particular environment, when we go in there, we will rescue those people if, of course, indeed they are being housed there against their will. And then when we do find, and then we open an inquiry. And then once we arrest the suspect, we will open a criminal case. Now, so far, and as I said, because of lockdown, there's been very little movement of people. But of course, now that we're on level 1, there is a greater degree of movement. And there's a possibility that there might be such reports coming up. But so far, we haven't had these kind of reports, except for those social media postings that we're seeing, that on testing them, they are proving to be, almost every one of them have proven to be false. In fact, all of them have proven to be false. Those that we could not really, establish where those videos were taken could even possibly have been taken in other countries and circulated in South Africa, suggesting that these things are happening in South Africa. So this is the challenge we are being faced with. But as our statistics are showing, there's nothing substantial in terms of, or there's no cases being investigated for anyone to even suggest that human trafficking is a problem. But we must not mistake that for kidnapping and for abduction. Yes, there's indeed cases of abduction taking place. There's indeed cases of kidnapping, albeit in the latest statistics up to June this year, kidnapping has shown a significant decrease. But also with the kidnapping, we're having a lot of cases where parents are estranged or divorced. The one parent takes a child from the other parent, either leaves the country or moves from one province to another, and cases like that are open. So even there too, each case has to be treated on its own merit to establish exactly what is contributing to that crime. But where human trafficking is concerned, I can tell you without fear of contradiction that it's not an area of, not a problematic area. The problem is the fake messages that are going out there.
Is it possible, though, Brigadier Naidoo, that the problem could be bigger than the actual reported cases that you are dealing with?
You know, if that is indeed true, we are urging people to please come and report to us. And once we, in terms of the elements of the crime, establish that indeed there is that degree or potential of human trafficking taking place, then we will register the inquiry as such and investigate it. But if people don't report it and they post videos and messages and voice notes and so forth on social media, it doesn't help our cause as the South African Police Service to assess the situation, to analyze the situation and put measures in place to mitigate that as a threat. Right now, we don't see that as a threat as we do with the other 17 community reported crimes.
You know, just reading around what is going on and what is being reported around human trafficking, the South African National Human Trafficking Resource Line, for example, told the independent media that there's a high prevalence of human trafficking in the Western Cape. And are you aware of this once again? Does the SAPS actually have capacity to deal with these issues as human trafficking issues isolated from the kidnappings and other issues that you've mentioned, Brigadier?
I really didn't want to get into this as a problem that we are seeing, as a challenge that we're seeing. But I think it's important that I mention it. And I don't really want to sound derogatory in this. We are having a situation in certain areas where, and we are trying to raise awareness and education around this. When children are leaving home and going, to visit a partner, a boyfriend or a girlfriend in other areas, they don't tell their parents where they're going. And then the parents would come and report a case of missing person or kidnapping, or even go to a point of suggesting that the child was trafficked. And maybe a day or two, even a week later, the teenager would return home and the police are never informed about it. And when we do our follow-up checks, only to find out that the person has indeed returned home but has been away visiting a partner or a friend in another area. Now, I'm not suggesting that that this is the case in the Western Cape, because you use Western Cape as an example from reports that have been created. But what I'm saying is that this is highly likely. There are areas in Western Cape where we're experiencing this. In KwaZulu-Natal, in Mpumalanga, we've been experiencing this. And it's something that, as I said, as a department, through Department of Social, through the Department of Social Development, the Department of Health, ourselves, even Department of Education, we're trying to raise awareness and education on this aspect. And also to ensure that whoever leaves home, whether it's an adult, a teenager or a juvenile, to inform the parents or guardian where they're going to, so they don't, for the lack of a better term, send the police on a wild goose chase.
And how do you respond, in wrapping this, how do you respond to allegations that the police are actually downplaying incidents of human trafficking? Because what if someone is from another country and trafficked into South Africa? How do they get about when the assertion is that police actually don't care and that they are downplaying this?
I'm not sure where this is coming from and what actual research was conducted as far as that is concerned, and what actual samples were tested as far as this is concerned. But what I was saying to you is that South Africa, as in terms of our status on the measures that we put in place to prevent such criminality from taking place, has been moved up by the US and in comparison to other countries. And remember, human trafficking is an international phenomenon. and South Africa is faring far better than your Western countries, far better than your other African countries in the continent, according to the way we are placed on the map in terms of the measures that we put in place. But also to say that we, from what I'm telling you, it's based on the statistics that we have at our disposal, and we cannot go by just reports or messages and fake news that is being posted out there. We can only go by what is reported to us. And as I said, without fear of contradiction, we are not having a problem that's purported to be out there in the public domain.
And as I said, I wanted to wrap that, but there is a contradiction, Brigadier, and I refer you once again to that UN meeting last year where South African police service members were trained, and South Africa did not dispute what was placed on the table, that South Africa is a primary destination for trafficked persons in the region and on the continent. But I want to move on to the Senzo Meyiwa case. And yesterday we saw 5 suspects who firstly refused to enter the dock, claiming that they did not know why they were arrested. And then you had accused number 4 saying that the people who were supposed to be in court, who were supposed to be in the dock, were not there because they had money. And he also said police were lying about the suspects being arrested the day before because they had been charged in August. So what exactly happened yesterday, and on what basis were those 5 suspects brought to court, and when were they arrested?
First and foremost, they were arrested on Monday, and we have warrants to prove. The warrants were dated for Monday, for the execution on Monday the 26th. That's the first and foremost. Those that say that they were arrested before, they were suspects that were already in custody for crimes such as murder and armed robbery, serving between 30 and 35 years. So if they were already in custody, some of them, and they were just arrested and formally charged for their alleged involvement in the murder of Senzo Meyiwa on Monday, the 26th, not any time before that. Now, their response in court yesterday was, for the lack of a better term, theatric, and to say that they were not, that they're not guilty, that they were not involved. There's going to be a court process unfolding, and I think the nation must allow for this court process to unfold. And we have the Minister of Police, when announcing the arrest of these 5 suspects, indicated that we have a watertight case, and we cannot say that without knowing that we have sufficient evidence, sufficient information, sufficient intelligence to ensure a successful prosecution in this matter. So let the court process take its course. And this argument about why are they in the dock and not other people, you would also remember that in the announcement of the arrest of the 5 suspects, we also indicated that that other arrests cannot be ruled out at this stage. The investigation is still in its embryo stages as far as other possible arrests are concerned, and we're not ruling out that possibility. So there could be more arrests as the investigation progresses. But these 5 people that have been arrested and charged, we are confident that we have a watertight case against them, and this is what we're going to prove in a court of law. We're not going to try them in the media. We're not going to allow ourselves to be drawn into trying them in the media space.
And Brigadier Naidoo, there's also the issue of the murder weapon that was used to kill Senzo Meyiwa, which was apparently kept in one of the police lockers. Can you give us any clarity on this?
Let's leave the testing of the evidence, which we have uncovered for the purpose of this case, to the courts. Let's not test the evidence here in the media space, because there will be opportunities for the accused, for the defense, to test whatever evidence we have. And I think the court platform would be the best place for that to be tested.
And there is the allegation once again against the police that every year when we get to the anniversary of the death of Senzo Meyiwa, the police put on some sort of spectacle that never seems to result in anything. How do you respond to that? And when you say you have a watertight case, are we going to see any further action this time?
Well, I'm not sure about what spectacle we're referring to, because in the previous years, we really didn't have much to report on, except all of the speculation, as we indicated as the minister had indicated in his speech on the arrest on Monday. There's been a lot of discussions, a lot of speculation, a lot of debates around Senzo Meyiwa matter. There were also leaking of information. Some of it, we believe, had been done deliberately, possibly to derail the investigation. These were the things that were happening in the media space without the participation and involvement in those discussions by the police. We didn't think it would be fair and practical for us to get involved in those discussions and debates, because we knew that getting involved there, it would have potentially hampered, hindered, or even damaged our prospects of a successful investigation. As you would have seen lately, before our announcement on Monday, there were media reports in the media space about suspects that were already arrested. There was an article written in the City Press, in the Sunday Independent, where they say suspects were already arrested, only for us to come on Monday, the 26th, to say suspects were arrested that very morning. And there was an operation between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. on Monday morning to arrest those suspects. So in the past, we never went public to say anything decisive, because we really didn't have much to say decisively about this investigation. What we can say is that in 2018, when the National Commissioner had a cold case strategy developed, a cold case task team was established as well, and this docket was one of many dockets assigned to this cold case task team to investigate, and they've done exceptionally well over the last 2 years. After 4 years, this docket went cold. In the last 2 years, this team had done very well to be able to gather the necessary evidence, intelligence, and identify those we still strongly believe are responsible for or have a case to answer to for the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. And here we are at this stage, and I think that the nation must now just allow for this court process to take its course, and we'll, at the end of it all, we're confident that we'll come out with a desired result.
Well, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. National South African Police Services spokesperson, Brigadier Vish Naidoo, talking to us about human trafficking as well as the Senzo Meyiwa court case.